Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're gonna be working on refurbishing up the gauge cluster on my 1967 Mustang. So I got these for Christmas, the new lenses and then the gauge cluster itself. So we're gonna go ahead and start tackling this one, especially because it's about 30 degrees outside and our high for the last couple days has been there or so about in the 20 degrees or so. So I'm not really trying to be outside in the car too much. But anyway, this is the old gauge cluster. As you can see, it is pretty old, pretty worn. This piece here, I think, is actually broken. Pretty sure it's supposed to be flat across there. So we will be replacing all that. I am going to be keeping all of the regular factory gauges. I do want to keep it pretty, standard looking. I don't want to go too crazy. I do have a Rocketman mini tack that will be replacing the clock since mine doesn't have a clock, and that should be in any day now. So I'm gonna go ahead and just wait for that to get in. But while we're waiting on that, I wanna go ahead and do the rest of it. So I have a new wiring harness that is just a factory kind of replacement. I know that there's aftermarket harnesses out there for like Painless or American Auto Wire and a couple other ones, but I'm not gonna use any of those. I do plan on just doing more of a factory style, mainly because a lot of my wiring actually doesn't seem too bad. Some stuff works, some things don't, and it's just a little bit easier because I'm not a wiring guy at all to follow along. So yeah, this is about it. Looks like we're going to have to reuse the wiper motor, which there's nothing hooked up to it. So might have to run out to the car and see what's supposed to be connected to the wiper motor, or if I disconnected it out there or what. I did go ahead and put LED bulbs in here off of Amazon. That was one of the first things I did way back when. I don't remember the bulb size or anything. So they were just cheap generic bulbs versus buying specific ones on CJ Ponies or anything that were a little bit more expensive. I do have a new speedometer cable as well. My speedometer cable, it actually works. It's fine, except for where it is screwed into the transmission, that little gear and everything. There hasn't been a bolt there. I tried sticking a bolt in there and it just backed itself out, and whatever threads were there, they're no longer there. So I might have to weld something on to get the new gear on there, and that little gear that goes into the transmission on the other side of the cable was so chewed up and everything that I put a new one in there. It kind of worked a little bit, so I will have to address that later down the road. But for the time being, it looks pretty simple and straightforward. Basically, I'm just gonna take off all of the screws that are holding this whole entire backing into the actual bezel, and pretty much just doing a one-for-one swap on over, and then just notating where all these wires go. I do have the new harness for everything, so it should replace all of these connections, even though most of this actually doesn't look too bad. Even the connector doesn't look too bad. This connector here, I don't even know what this one's for, so I'm going to have to figure that out. I did order one that had a tack on it, which was kind of on accident. I thought maybe since I am going to be ordering a tack, adding it on, I could use it, but really, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. So that's going to be it. I'll kind of take a video of myself of where all these wires go, just so I get them all right. I mean, basically it looks like all these blue with the red stripe is just gauge lighting for the most part, so that's pretty simple. Yeah, all these light blue with the red are all the LEDs. And then it kind of looks like they kind of just fit in there. So that should be pretty easy. I don't know what this is, what this piece is here. This little bracket, I don't know what this is. What is the gauge is that? That should be the speedometer. It says ignition. It looks like something might be broke off right here. I'm gonna do some research on what this piece is. It's grounded to itself. Yeah, I don't know what this is. I know that's the wiper motor. I might order a new one of those just while I'm here. So I know that is replaced and we're in good working order. And then, yeah, that should be pretty easy. Headlights are not on here. I got to figure out my headlights. I think I have a grounding issue somewhere because now they don't work, and they are just weird. So they kind of flicker on and off when they do work. They were working for a while, now they're not working. Same with my taillights. They work kind of when they want to work. So I think it's just a grounding issue I got to figure out. But we'll go ahead and start here and get all this replaced. I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys probably on a time lapse. And I mean, it looks pretty simple. Just take out all these screws, try and clean everything up, do a swap, and probably end up ordering some parts, and probably won't be completed for a few days. Another thing I saw online is some people paint their orange little, I guess, arrows or indicators there, and they use model paint. So I am gonna try and maybe copy that, use some model paint, try and paint at least the speedometer. Gas one looks good. Oil pressure and alternator look good, and same with the temp gauge. And I'm not gonna roll back my mileage either. I don't know if that's been rolled back before or not. I'm just gonna go ahead and keep it the same. Don't know when the motor has been touched, but like I said, I think earlier, it's bored 40 over, so it has been touched at some point in its life. And then I did a whole bunch of rebuilds that everybody has seen since then, so that'll be that. So here's the new wiring harness, just a factory kind of replacement. Found out, if you look around online, that this is called the constant voltage regulator, and these used to be mechanical, but they have aftermarket replacements which are no longer mechanical, and they basically help keep the right voltage for your entire gauge cluster. And then the wiper motor as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and contact Dan over at Maryland Mustang, hopefully try and pick those two up tomorrow. But for tonight, I'm gonna try and take off all these screws, take everything off, and hopefully get everything transferred over into the new bezel, along with getting the wiring harness routed aside from the, you know, the two modules essentially there. Okay guys, so we're back after that time lapse. I'm sure you guys all saw. I tried doing them just one at a time, so just taking off one wire, putting the new one on. However, we ran into a couple little issues. To get started, start over here. Everything looks to be good for the, what gauge is that? That is the, I think that's the temperature gauge over here. Yeah, temperature gauge is over here, gas is over here. So those were fine. Same with the, you know, the LEDs and various gauges and turn signals and everything else that's up here. But for these studs here, I realized quickly, those are definitely things that I'm missing. And then I'm also missing a plug for this guy here. So it's actually pretty easy because, as you can see, once you clean it off, most of them are labeled what color they need to be. And once I realized that, that's when I went ahead and just yanked off the old harness. And then anything that's not labeled like this, that's just a light. So, you know, that's just an LED light, well, LED now. So these are just lights, and they were all the same color that they were on the old harness too, this blue with like a violet looking stripe. Here, let's get it on this one here. Zoom in on that. There we go. So those were all the lights, which means that that was all correct. So I'm running into these 4 studs here, and it actually looks like I'm missing one on this harness. So I'm a little confused by that. So I'm going to check that out. Furthermore, this one's just supposed to be violet. Could zoom in, there we go. So just violet, but this connector with the violet has 2 things on it. So I'm not entirely sure about that. So I think I'm gonna look up and see if there's other harnesses for different options that your car had. The only one that I know this one didn't have was a clock, which is, I'm assuming, how come one of these, this guy here, and the old harness was just kind of taped up out of the way. So I'm assuming that's what that's for. And then this ground here is different than the factory ground. So I'll just have to put a ring connector on there, and that'll be fine, not a big deal if this is the correct one. Still don't know where this blue black stripe goes. I don't really know where any of these go. The issue I have, as you can see, we have red and yellow. Well, on this connector, I have a red and a yellow. So the red on this one is more pink, if you ask me. And then I have a yellow with black on this other connector. So maybe it's those two. Or I have this red over here. It's a red with the white stripe, but that says red, white stripe. So obviously I would imagine that's correct. So I thought maybe, because I know the alternator is, I think, this bottom gauge here. So I thought maybe the alternator was on its own gauge, its own wiring harness, which to me would make sense that there might be, you know, these might just be different harnesses you need. One for the alternator and one for, what's this one here? Let me see, I don't remember off the top of my head. Let's see. Oh, oil pressure. Okay, so yeah, so one of these would be oil pressure. One of them is going to be alternator. I think it's alternator oil pressure on mine. This bezel has them wrong because it has oil pressure over here. Mine's over here, and then my fuel is that top left, so a little bit different. So I thought maybe these are on their own wiring harnesses, and maybe they're just in, but you know, like just somebody taped them in when they did it from the factory. But they're all still in the same plug, and it doesn't look like this plug has been modified at all looking in there. So I thought maybe they were just taped together, which is why I cut them out to see if they were, and they were not. So I'm gonna do some research on that. Now in the meantime, I'm just gonna try and separate this one and at least put it in the new bezel. And then it looks like these two LEDs over here, they are extra, one for here, and then I think I have to replace this one here. I think that's the one that, one of these ones here in the middle that it didn't put anything on, or maybe it was this one. Anyway, I'll check them all and make sure I have all the LEDs. I am one LED short though. Yeah, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and I think this should, yeah, this picks up right off. So I'm gonna flip it over because I don't know what's gonna happen, and then hopefully just throw it on the new one. So we are back after cleaning everything up, guys. One thing of note is, I don't know if you guys saw me have this gauge bezel, the new one over there, flipped, but was a pretty easy swap, just a 1-for-1, and then it has these metal rings that are like this tan and black color, and that just holds the screws in. So everything fit really well with the aftermarket one. It is gonna be kind of weird putting in the wiper motor, so I actually had to take that out and put it in as well. It looks like it just has some self-tapping screws or something that goes in there from the front side. Yeah, okay, and that's it. I do still have my Rocket Man mini tack coming, so that should be all right. But this is pretty simple, just kind of snaps in and over. Just a little difficult to do with one hand while I'm holding the camera, so you can bear with me here for 1 second. All right. Yeah, I can't quite get it 100% fit yet, but you know, we are looking pretty good. Let me see if I set you guys down. Just 1 second on the tripod. There we go. And once we get a screw or two in there, that'll be perfect. So there is the new one. It's actually really nice and really clean. I kept my original mileage on there just because I wanted to do that. And then for all these specialty little spots, there's these those little cardboard pieces that just kind of fit in there. Little slot. I don't even know if you can replace those or not, and that'll direct the light, you know, directly to the turn indicator or anything else. So, just dropped everything. You can see it all looks It matches up rather well. I might have to go back over and replace the new wiper and brakes and kind of paint those maybe. It even has the correct little spot there, not the pony, because I think the 68s have that or something different there. That's it until I get the Rocket Man attack, which I think will be here maybe tomorrow or maybe the next day. So by the end of this weekend, I'll have it this completed. Then we'll get it back in the car. I am gonna have to look up the wiring harness just because I don't know if I got that right. So we're back. It's the next day, guys, working on this gauge cluster. What I'm going to go ahead and do is take back out all these screws. I just put it all together. I wasn't really sure when I was going to get everything, but I didn't lose anything. Well, we were good to go there. I went ahead and picked up this little orange paint from Walmart with a couple of just paint brushes. I plan on painting the speedometer little needle, and hopefully that will be close enough. I'm going to see if it's too far off, then you know, I might not use that. And then I also went on ahead and picked up a label maker just so I can label some of these wires, label a couple other things I'm not entirely sure about. So right now, I'm actually asking for, gonna be trying to do some research for these two gauges here. I believe this one is the, what is that one, alternator. I think the other one is, yeah, alternator and oil pressure gauges. So alternator oil pressure. So you can see it's labeled with red and yellow. So out of these two plugs, it seemed like they should land in here. I have red on this one. It does have a white stripe, doesn't say white stripe anywhere. And then I have a yellow with a black stripe. So that might have to go here. I'm not entirely sure, which means that these connectors are wrong. So I don't know. And if you look up here, it says black with green stripe. This is very clearly black with green stripe here. So this one obviously has to go there. And then white with red stripe, which is right here. So white with red stripe. So it looks like, you know, these connectors are a little bit wrong potentially, or maybe I actually went back through my order history. Looks like I ordered something for this factory tachometer. Mine doesn't have that, so I'm sure that is playing into it as well. Gonna do some research and, you know, hopefully I don't have to redo this or buy a new one, but I really just don't know. And then we're still missing the LED light for this one here, which might be potentially this guy here, which is blue and yellow. All the other lights were blue and like violet, so that could be, you know, maybe it just goes right in there. Makes sense. Or maybe it powers the clock or something. I'm not sure. Same with this green and white one. Maybe that's made to power the clock and then has like a plug-in. I'm just not entirely sure. And then we also have this ground here, which I also have to change out the end here. So if anybody has any guidance on any of those, let me know. I think I'm gonna go ahead and just not run these ones right now for the time being until I get that figured out, what wires should go where. And I'm gonna try and pull up, well, I did this morning. I went ahead and pulled up a non-factory tack wiring harness just on CJ Pony parts, and I zoomed in and it looks pretty much the same. I couldn't find any solid red or yellow connectors for these guys. So if anybody has any guidance there, let me know. Okay, so we are back and now we have all nice gauges. All the other ones were honestly pretty good, so I didn't even touch them. This one though, obviously speedometer, needed a little bit of work. Let me zoom in here and see if you can really see. Not quite. So there's a little bit of texture right there, if you notice. And then it's red, and then it had a little bit of orange that faded out. So I don't know if that's how it was done from the factory, which I think it was, because if you look at this one, they kind of start red and then kind of fade into orange. So this orange is slightly different, I would say, But if you're looking at it from, you know, here, you wouldn't really, I mean, you're not gonna be able to tell. Only difference is if I just use this pure orange color, I would use something that has just a tiny hint of red in it, and I think that would match it perfect. But we can actually see it now. I'm gonna let that sit for probably like 5 minutes or so, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do probably another little tiny coat. What I did was I didn't even squeeze any out of the little paint bottle here. I just used just that little bit there on the tip, that was it. And then I got these really small, tiny toothbrushes, or not toothbrushes, paintbrushes. And you know, they did the trick, this really tiny one. So we can go ahead and do 2 coats, we should be good on that. And then this paint is made for multi-surface. So when I was looking at it, I can be using like ceramic, acrylics, anything like that. So I think it'll be all right to fit on this metal. Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're working on the 67 gauge cluster today, changing out the wiring harness. In the previous video I did, I was kind of confused as to what was going on here. I was missing some stuff. I thought maybe I had to splice, you know, these wires into the alternator and oil pressure. Well, after doing some research, I ordered the wrong cluster as mentioned. So this is the wiring harness. Just a 67 Mustang with without tack. So, you know, just the original style, which is what I'm just gonna do because I'm solely just gonna replace the wiring over time. And then while I was in here, I went over to my main man, Dan, over at Maryland Mustang, and he actually recommended me to go ahead and just grab this guy here, a instrument panel gauge voltage regulator. He had it on hand, on stock, or in stock, just right there. So he's never led me in a bad direction, and I think it was like 20 bucks or something. I don't really remember, but pretty inexpensive for what it was. So I went ahead and picked this up too, and that just goes right here. Cool thing about Maryland Mustang is you can go in there and talk to those guys, because like I wasn't sure what this was, and he let me know what it was, and that, you know, it's kind of mechanical and everything like that. And then my wiper motor, he didn't have that in stock, which is right over here. So I haven't ordered that one yet. I want to make sure this one works and everything because it's like $75 online. So don't really plan on ever really using the wipers a ton. So for $75, I may or may not change it out. It's not really a lot, but I just didn't know if it'd really be worth it, especially if mine works. And lastly, I ordered these off Amazon. So I have this idea that I wasn't really sure if it's going to work, but what it is, it's these little connectors. So you can build kind of your terminals with the male and female portions. And my idea is to put that on the Rocket Man mini tack that we have added now. So I wanted a 3-prong one. So basically I can just, you know, if I need to reach back in there, I can disconnect it in 2 points, the entire harness, this main harness plug here, and then the Rocket Man mini tack. And then I can take everything out if needed. So never used these before. It looks pretty self-explanatory. It's got some directions, and this was just off Amazon. And it was like 30 bucks for the whole kit. And then I have the little like ratcheting pliers. After looking around online, they're a little special. And for 30 bucks for all this, make my job easier, I went ahead and ordered them because these are gonna be very useful. It's got some 4 pins in there, some 3s, some 2s. It has a 1 in there. I don't really know why. I feel like you'd usually use more than 1. So they are just kind of thrown in here, but you know, good little kit for the money. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and replace the wiring harness now that I got the right one, and I think it'll go together super easy.